You know that feeling when you see a game everywhere, clips, screenshots, the front page, every time that you open Steam, to the point where it feels like you have to see what the hype is about? That was me with Ball Pit, the indie sensation that has been bouncing around the internet and piling up positive reviews. The more I looked into it, the more I couldn't help but wonder, is it really worth all of this attention? I mean, how fun can a roguelike about bouncing balls and breaking bricks really be? But a few short hours later, struggling deeply in the mushroom biome, it hit me. I didn't want to stop playing. This game that seemed incredibly simple on the surface had me locked in, and not even in that one more run type of way. I was just as happy to arrange my city and bounce workers off of buildings as I was to dive back in. I hadn't expected to love Ball Pit this much, but I was wrong. When I first loaded up Ball Pit, I'll be honest, I didn't really get it. My initial impression was that this would be a quirky, quick game to pick up and play in between other games or when I was short on time. You might feel this same way your first couple of runs, given that the starting warrior character is basic, doesn't move and shoot very quickly, and the concept is pretty straightforward. It didn't help that I never got into Vampire Survivors, which influences the gem pickup and upgrade mechanics, and my only real experience with that genre was Deep Rock Galactic Survivors, where shooting is automatic and you only control where your character moves. This actually threw me off a bit because I turned on auto fire and didn't even realize you could catch your balls to launch them faster, making things much smoother. Although, in hindsight, that makes perfect sense for a game about bouncing balls. Don't judge me. Once I figured that out, started focusing on the angles of my shots, and playing catch with myself, the basic gameplay started to click. That engaging loop of constantly moving, grabbing up gems, upgrading, and shooting. This is one of the strongest parts of Ball Pit. There's always something going on and very little downtime, so those 15-minute runs tend to feel like they fly by. In between, the base building and resource management layer kind of felt like it was just tacked on, but little did I know that I would end up loving that part just as much later on. My first big unlock came with the Sheriff's Office blueprint, giving me the second character, the Itchy Finger. If you don't know, this character plays very different from the starting warrior. Not only does he move full speed while shooting, but he also launches balls as soon as they become available, making him feel much faster all around. The trade-off is that he has scattered aim, so you can't truly rely on him to hit where you're shooting at. Regardless of that, he quickly became, and still is, one of my favorite characters, giving me my first clear of the Boneyard stage. Looking back at it now, this area definitely feels like somewhat of a tutorial. The Skeleton King fight is fun, but not anything particularly difficult or new, especially if you've played bullet hell games before. It reinforced my thoughts that Ball Pit was steady, but not spectacular, and with the Steam refund timer still ticking, I was this close to calling it quits. But something told me to keep going. I decided to cautiously watch my playtime as I moved into the second biome, and I'm glad that I did, because Ball Pit started to open up and hook me in ways that I never saw coming. Stepping into the snowy shores, I was hoping for more than just a change of scenery. At first, it felt like the boneyard with a different coat of paint, but then I began to notice a subtle change in some of the enemies. Ice shields made it so I couldn't just shoot everywhere anymore. I had to strategically target open sides and angles to hit the enemies that were protected. This was a small difference, but one that echoed through the rest of the biomes as I unlocked them, each one introducing new enemy behaviors, abilities, and traits that made prioritizing and positioning much more important. The tutorial stage was over. On top of that, as I continued to unlock blueprints and focus on new characters, I began to notice the small design decisions that made each one unique, some almost tailor-made for certain areas and bosses. Bonus points for the clever names and ball combos. But it wasn't just the combat side that was opening up. Back in my little city, what first felt like a tacked-on part of the game had started to become its own addictive layer. Arranging buildings, assigning workers, and tinkering with layouts to get the optimal harvest added a satisfying rhythm between runs. It's not as deep as a full-on management sim, and I never found the economy aspect to be punishing or grindy, but that chill vibe was exactly why it fit right in with the satisfying gameplay loop. Planning out angles and bouncing workers off of buildings and resources is a clever connection to the main combat, and before long, I was just as excited to manage my settlement as I was to jump back into the pit. With the two halves of the games feeding into into each other beautifully. I'm really curious where players stand on this one. If you've played Ball Pit, did the city building side click for you, or did you mostly stick around for the chaos in the pit? And if you haven't played it yet, does this light management style and change of pace between runs appeal to you? Let me know in the comments. In addition, I was pleasantly surprised at the variety and playstyles available here. For example, the Shade is a character who launches balls from the top of the arena instead of the bottom, making him great for knocking out bosses as soon as they appear, but not so great when the level is crowded and the balls get stuck. Pairing him with attacks that pass through enemies can help with some of this problem. There's even a tactician character who turns Ball Pit into a turn-based strategy game, completely changing the pacing and feel. I understand why a lot of people probably don't like this character, but as someone who mainly plays turn-based tactics games, I thought it was a very cool nod to the genre. Turn-based mode kind of negates the speed and range of enemies and makes it more about angles, shot placement, and positioning. The most notable thing about the characters was that none of them felt particularly terrible. Instead, their quirks would synergize well with certain types of balls and upgrades, and it felt like the right setup could make any of them viable. I found myself genuinely looking forward to the next unlock, curious about what new characters and combinations would shake things up. Just when I started getting comfortable, I unlocked the Matchmaker Blueprint, a building that allowed me to use the partner system. This adds a whole different set of synergies, allowing you to take two characters into the pit at once, combining their unique abilities and perks. Obviously, some complement each other better than others, and clearing a stage with a partner will award both of them. It's another smart touch that reinforces the variety and encourages experimentation. Then there's the balls.
That's what she said.
Not only can you fuse two types together to make stronger and more interesting variants, but the evolutions can get insanely powerful and turn the screen into a chaotic symphony of lights, lasers, and damage numbers. With upgrades coming fairly quickly on top of the constant movement, shooting, and gathering, Ball Pit becomes an extremely engaging and fun time. Add in the brilliant design choice to make difficulty tiers move faster instead of making enemies bullet sponges, and you get an almost Tetris-like tension, racing to prioritize and manage your shots to stop the waves of enemies as they creep ever closer to the bottom of the screen. It's the perfect blend of chaos and strategy, and the deeper I got, the deeper I wanted to go. My 2-hour refund window had come and gone, but I wasn't even concerned about that anymore. What started as curiosity had quietly turned into obsession, and at that point, I knew I was all in. Now, I completely understand why Ball Pit has become one of the biggest indie surprises all year. It's such an odd blend of ideas. Part roguelike, bullet hell, and idle city builder, yet somehow, each part fits in and complements the others way better than you would expect. What's more, the game feels so incredibly simple. No lengthy tutorial, no menu-heavy sections, no over-explaining or ridiculously long runs. We can all use a game like that. You just jump in, start bouncing, and everything else falls into place. What's meant to be a 15-minute session suddenly turns into 3 hours down the drain. It's almost the opposite of what my first impressions were. I came in expecting a one-trick indie hit that may be fun for a few runs, then gone. Instead, as someone who is very lukewarm on roguelikes in general, I can say that Ball Pit never truly feels like one to me. Sure, it's got the standard meta progression and upgrade systems, but the little design choices add up to make it much more approachable and casual feeling, with a surprising amount of variety. There were even times I was happy to have a run end, just so I could harvest, upgrade, and expand my city. Watching my characters bounce around at high speed while harvesting resources scratches an itch in my brain that I didn't know existed. It all blended together into one cohesive gameplay loop, so each dive into the pit just felt like a natural extension to that. All I know is I'm really digging this genre of cheap, fun games that can be played in short segments but still offer a lot of content, like Deep Rock Galactic Survivors, Ball Pit, and the recently announced Warhammer Survivors game coming out next year. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more strategy gaming coverage from me, feel free to subscribe to the channel and then slide into one of my other videos that are on screen now.